All right. So thanks for coming in on this gorgeous day to listen to me talk to you about turtles and fishing. So basically, I'm just going to talk, as Mahilani said, talk about marine turtle stranding impacts related to fishing gear, and I'm going to keep this to the Main Hawaiian Islands for the most part, just these lower islands, even though we do see quite a few interactions up in the northwesterns as well. So I just kind of want to frame this talk. I want to kind of take a broad view, and I want to answer this question: why are sea turtles important? And so basically, ecologically, you can see they have a diverse range of interactions across the 7 species, and then also in different locations. So these hatchlings actually provide a really important food source. As they're crawling to the beach, they're eaten by lots of birds, and then also in the water, once they're in the water, fish and things like that. So they are a really important food source for a lot of animals. Here we see on the predatory side of things, we've got a large leatherback sea turtle that's eating tons and tons of jellyfish. That's kind of its impact in the ecosystem, top down. You can see the green sea turtle here in Hawaii has all kinds of associations with fish that are, using that turtle to eat themselves, or, in some sort of different types of associations. And then also for us, tourism is really important. We like sea turtles typically. People enjoy seeing sea turtles. People come and they travel to see sea turtles. So there's that human component that, we enjoy these animals, and that's another reason they're important. They're important to us. Here in Hawaii, we also know they're very important culturally, and so that's another aspect, specifically in Hawaii, but in other places as well. So, as a cultural, historical animal of importance, we recognize that as well. It's important to our culture, our religion, our tourism, and the environment. Overall, I kind of just want to talk about some threats to sea turtles. I'm going to keep this mostly to human related. So you can see on the left here, this X-ray shows a fishing hook that was eaten by or ingested by that turtle. We also see, turtles get caught in nets. This diver is attempting to rescue them, but because sea turtles need to come to the surface to breathe, that actually is a source of mortality because they can drown. We also see poaching, not so much in the United States, but especially in other countries where sea turtle is often a traditional food for a lot of people. And it's also a source of income for people that maybe don't have a lot of means. So this particular photo, which, does happen often in other places, is, they'll take that female, they'll harvest the meat, they'll harvest the eggs that haven't been shelled yet, and then they'll harvest those shelled eggs as well. Kind of going along the bottom here, depending on where you are as well, oil spills, pollution, things like that do impact sea turtles. Everyone's familiar with Deep Horizon, lots of oiled sea turtles there. And then interactions with marine debris. We all know sea turtles are out there, trash is out there, discarded nets are out there, and there is interactions there. This is not particularly applicable to Hawaii, but I want to throw it in there because in some places it really is a significant source of issues. But that's beach lighting. So when we're artificially lighting the horizon, it can cause disorientation for nesting females and for their hatchlings as they're emerging. Typically, both the females and the hatchlings will move towards the brightest horizon. And if you can imagine yourself on a dark beach with no lights, that's always going to be the water with the stars and the moon reflected off the water. So we kind of add a variable that can confuse them. And I've actually seen hatchlings, they're wandering either around the beach, they'll get stuck in a pool or a parking lot, or same with the females. So that's another source. Happens mostly in Florida, East Coast, that kind of stuff. And then we do see, this is, oops, wrong button. All right. Oh, look. Okay. And then the last one here that we see kind of across the board, it's not really specific anywhere, it happens in a lot of different places, is boat strike. And you can see these prop wounds. It's very clear, these parallel gashes here. And that, you know, it does happen here in Hawaii, but it happens other places too. So this is kind of general threats. And in my experience, it seems that a lot of these are region specific. You know, something that happens in one place is not always happening in the same frequency or capacity in another place. So it really is important to kind of look at where you're at in that particular region and try to find out what those causes are, those threats are, because they vary. And then obviously the thing I'm going to talk about today is fishing gear interactions. So I just kind of have this one here, turtle on this is a loggerhead on a line. Someone's attempting to try to remove that line and free that turtle. But that's kind of where I'm going to focus today. But again, taking it back, you know, I know that this is a sensitive topic. People like to fish. Other people like turtles. Sometimes it can be a sensitive topic. So I just want to kind of go over this question, why do we fish? Same, you know, why are turtles important, right? Because this is the other side of the story. Fishing is important economically and for a source of food. So in a lot of places, you know, this is a very important either means of feeding people or also as a job. A lot of people, this is their job. This is their only job. And this is how they make their living. So that's really important. You know, being on the science side of things, I think that's really important to consider is, you know, how are we using it? How are people fishing? What's the reason? And then how do we kind of work together? Obviously, we all know we fish for fun, for recreation. You know, that's typical. We fish for sport. It's also fun. And then I put this in there because, you know what, we fish for science too. The scientists, they're out there fishing. They're trying to understand, you know, the fish populations and what's going on. So, you know, it's not one group of people that's fishing. Everyone's fishing and everyone has different reasons. So those are all, in my opinion, very important to kind of consider when framing this type of a topic. So I'm kind of breaking down interactions with fishing gear. There's these interactions that happen. They're mostly offshore, often commercial fishing or large-scale fishing. So, you know, these people are, these workers are setting big, long nets, you know, that have lots of baited hooks. This is a particular long line, which does happen off the, like, way out, you know, off the coast of Hawaii. It happens many other places as well. But of course, just because you have this net out there and you have turtles out there, they're going to cross paths. So, you know, that does happen. So I'm going to kind of call that the offshore. So that's kind of one side. But where I'm going to focus and where our strandings is mostly focused is this other side of things, kind of the near shore. Again, this picture. Where, you know, maybe someone's fishing on their fishing boat or, you know, they're fishing, you know, off the beach or wherever. So I'm just going to kind of focus, you know, even though this stuff is happening, that's kind of a whole different story, a whole different set of ideas and issues. But so I'm going to focus more on this near shore stuff. I just want to show, so, you know, part of it is like, how do we know that an animal had an interaction with fishing gear? And there are some very visible signs. They're not pretty, but sometimes I think it's important for us to see these. This, you can see that the line is cutting into the shoulder there. This we do see often in our program. And it is actually self-amputating the slipper. So the slipper left untreated will actually just fall off. It takes months typically, and the turtle can survive and be okay, but we have to assume that's fairly painful. Here you can see, and this coloring is from betadine. This isn't from anything coming from the turtle. It's just an antiseptic. But you know, you can kind of see the slipper was amputated. Here you can see the line as it was cutting into the neck. So likely that's monofilament or whatever was, you know, wrapped around here, wrapped around the neck, and then it was cut off and treated. We do see this sometimes where the line will be wrapped around both flippers, around the neck, and that can actually cause the turtle to suffocate. And then again, picture, you know, you can see these hooks inside. So sometimes animals ingest the hooks, they'll ingest the monofilament. That monofilament line can actually go through the entire digestive tract and come out the backside and get stuck in there. So that's not a fun situation. So for our strandings program, I just kind of, it's a long wordy definition, but I just want to let kind of how we're thinking about, fishing related strandings is basically any external entanglement with fishing line, hooks, and or nets, or the ingestion of fishing line or hooks, which causes internal trauma. And this, for us, can involve any species of sea turtle that we find in the Hawaiian waters. So I just want to show you kind of our overall stranding graph, because I don't want to give you just the piece, that's just the fishing stuff. But here you can kind of see this is everything. And this comes from our annual stranding report. And to let you know, this is only for green turtles. We did narrow it down a bit because that's most of what we see, and I'll show you that later. But as you can see, for the most part, what our strandings program is finding that most of the causes are unknown. That means that the turtle washes up, we get it, and there's no clear cause of why it died. We cannot say with any certainty. We just see that it's dead. So we're not trying to overinflate anything. If we can't tell, we're going to say we don't know. And then also you can see the fibropapillomatosis. I'm sure everyone is familiar with that. Those tumors that grow. That's a disease. You did see that I left that out of my human related thing because they're still working on that. But that's also a disease that it does happen. And then here they're separating hook and line and net and gill net. So you can see these kind of nets are around here. It's fairly low, not too bad, fairly stable. But the hook and line, you can kind of see it has been growing over the years. And for a long time, the tumors were kind of, the secondary behind unknown main source of stranding. But in the recent years, we're starting to see kind of the hook and line is either surpassing or it's kind of flip-flopping. They're contending for which one causes more strandings. And often, just to let you all know, sometimes we see multiple things. Maybe a turtle has tumors, it also has fishing line. So we can see multiple causes that are related to why that animal is stranded. Oh, sorry. Just to highlight that, and we're kind of contending there for which one. So now I just want to tell you, so the data that I was looking at, like I told you, it was mostly green turtles, but we do see a couple of other species, which about 1% of the strandings, I'll tell you, I came down to between 1990 and 2014, about 1,211 strandings. So about 1% of those are olive ridleys. 1.5 is hawksbills, and then 97.4 was greens. And to me, this kind of makes sense because this is a pelagic species, and so typically, they're out in the offshore. Maybe they get tangled in a net, they get incapacitated, and they wash in. Because that is something else that we have to deal with stranding data. It's not that we're out there surveying everything. We only get the subset of what does come to shore. So there could be other things going on out there, but we're not going to see it because we're only seeing what comes in. So that kind of makes sense. It's a pelagic species. They're not really resident in the coast. This makes sense to me because hawksbills don't have a very big population in Hawaii. They are here, but they're not as abundant as the green turtles. And their population, what our team is finding is that it's fairly stable. It's low and it's stable. It's not really increasing. They're not seeing an increase the way they are with green turtles. Green turtles really make sense that it's high because we've got residents here they're native to Hawaii. They live here. This is pretty much the only place this population lives. It's a distinct population. And then also this population's on the rise. So it kind of makes sense that, more turtles, more interactions. But because these other species are fairly low, for the most part, I'm going to focus on the green turtle moving forward. So I just wanted to show you, if we just look at the straight numbers, this is a graph of the number of green turtle stranding events. So not the number of turtles, but the number of events, individual events that occurred over these 24 years. Just the green turtles, 1,179. And obviously along x-axis, we've got the year. Along the y is the actual number of events, and it looks pretty clear. It's going up. It's a pretty big trend here. But that's kind of not the whole picture. My next question was, are just the number of fishing gear related strandings going up, or is this a consequence because all strandings are going up? So the next shows you basically the proportion of all stranding events that are actually related to fishing gear in the same time period. So basically all I did was I divided each year the number of strandings related to fishing gear by the total strandings that we reported that whole year. And so this is actually just the percentage of that. And you can see it, it's still kind of going up, but it doesn't look maybe as scary as the other one. So, again, it's kind of going up. But then my next question is, are we seeing more strandings, more fishing gear interactions because there's more turtles? It doesn't necessarily mean that the problem's getting worse. It means there could be something else going on, because we should expect to see more. If we have the same level of fishing effort, you're going to see an increase in turtles, then you're going to potentially see more interactions. And so it's kind of my question. And this, we still, we'll wait and see, and kind of more analyses are needed. But I kind of wanted to leave that as a, just a kind of open-ended question there. So, okay, these things are happening, right? People are going to fish. I told you there's lots of reasons people fish. It's not as simple as just saying don't fish. It's important for a lot of reasons. But I think kind of dissecting these cases and looking at, what can we do based on what is actually happening here on the stranding side of things. The whole research and everything else, that's, that's a different story. What can be done there? But for us, we're focusing on stranding. So what can we do? And we're looking at, basically, got a couple categories: turtles that are found alive and we were able to release them, found alive but they died, found dead, so nothing we can do, they're already dead. And then, because a lot of our stranding data is collected by the public, or the public is informing us that there is a turtle, we don't always get on site. So with all of this data, all of these categories, it's kind of important to know, we're not always able to get there, but we rely on the public as our eyes and ears, especially spread out throughout the islands. And just to remind everyone too, all of this data is for all of the islands. I have not separated it yet. So kind of what's the story then? How bad are the numbers? Okay, 48% were alive, released alive. It's not so bad. 8.5%. They were found alive, but they died. But it's not horrifying. About 43% were found dead. Not great, but at least the found alive release is higher. And then just a very small proportion of unknown. So where NOAA can come in, if we find turtles that are dead, we do our best to take samples, to learn what we can from them, to use them for science, to inform, other scientists, biologists, and the managers. So those turtles, it's not completely a lost cause. There are really important questions we can ask and answer with them. These animals that are found alive, we have the potential to intervene and try to mediate that situation. And I'm going to tell you just about a couple of cases where we were able to, got a call from the public, we were able to respond. And there's happy endings. So this is a Waimanalo turtle. It's about subadult, maybe about this big. It was found and reported by snorkelers. I didn't put the before picture on, but basically this, as we saw in those other photos, monofilament wrapped around the flipper, which was actually, this flipper was about 95% already off when they found it. But the bone, it was healed over the bone. It actually, nature does a really good job when left to its own. So, it was healing, but, the animal's definitely not in good shape, not healthy. So we were able to respond. And this is typical for our stranding cases, we brought it to the vet. The vet, removed the rest of the flipper with some anesthetics and anesthesia, and We had several rounds of antibiotic injections, which help relieve that infection going on. And we had it for a recovery period, and we actually were able to release it. And we released it back in the same spot because, as I mentioned before, in Hawaii, these animals are culturally significant, and a lot of times they're actually, the research says, that they're resident to those locations they come from. So the community wants those animals to come back. And so we do our best to bring the animal back to where it came from for the animal, also for the community. And we have this next case, again, fishing line entanglement. It's kind of random because it was the same right, well, I guess the other one was, yep, right front flipper. Same kind of thing. You can kind of see where the line was cutting in. And this is actually bone exposed. The vet here was kind of removing the trailing edge of this flipper to kind of get rid of it. But this was a large adult male that came in from Hilo. So again, the public lets us know. We were able to coordinate a rescue and a response. Veterinary care, we got great vets. They removed, when we were able to schedule a surgery, they removed this part, so he just had this little kind of stump left. Again, lots of antibiotics. And actually, I put this hook here because it was kind of a surprise. We didn't even see that because it was so far embedded in the other flipper, the left flipper, that just this little part was sticking out. And because this was a big guy and, he's obviously struggling, he's got, that flipper is very sore and painful. We try to not manipulate them too much and stress them out until they're under anesthesia. So we didn't actually see that. And we pulled that out kind of while he was getting surgery. So there's all kind, a lot of times when we see line, there's surprise hooks too. But again, this had a very, successful outcome. We flew it back to Hilo, and they were able to release him there. I know for the people that love turtles, this is kind of it's a hard thing to see. It's a hard thing, it can be frustrating. But the thing I want to leave you with is that, we can help. We can help the fishing community by, if you see something, you can report it and we can try to intervene. Also, just anecdotally, most of the people I talk to, they're not trying to hook turtles. It's just a consequence. It happens, and everyone's just trying to do their thing. Turtles trying to do their thing. People are trying to do their thing. So, really, it's going to take all of us kind of working together. And that's, so basically, if anyone in the public can call us and we can come help. That's our number, our stranding number. You'll get myself or Devon here on the other line typically. And then, so basically I'm on the science side of the house, but NOAA has two sides. Then they have the management side, and we do work together. So we get the numbers, and then we let them know what's going on, and they try to create the management and the outreach strategies. So I leave this up here, just as this is a campaign that our coworker Irene Kelly is working on the pyro side, to work with the fishing community and with those fishermen to give them tools that, if something happens, it's okay, you can help, and it's not always the fishermen, it's sometimes a tourist or anyone that's out there just trying to have a fun day fishing, maybe. So, there are things you can do. First of all, your safety comes first, but then also, there's a couple things. You can check your bait after every nibble. You can make sure you're using the barbless circle hooks. You can ask Irene for those. You can visit this website. Again, if you see injured turtles or, hey, you accidentally hooked something, you can call us. The turtle's on shore, we respond. All we know is that it's on shore. So there is this camp. I just, I didn't want to leave the audience with just those sad pictures and scary numbers, but there are things, that are, the scientific community is putting in place so that we can empower, the other communities to be able to help. And I'm just going to have my closing slide. But basically, in my opinion, conservation takes community. It's not just the scientists. It's not just the public. It's not just the industry or anyone else. We all have to work together. And so I've been fortunate enough to find myself with some great co-authors, a great team that I'm working with, the Turtle Research Program. I've also had a lifetime of inspirational mentors, friends, colleagues, and animals. I've worked, with captive animals. I've worked with wild animals. I've worked with people doing all kinds of different stuff. So it's been really great and helped shape my understanding of how to go about some tricky questions and issues like fishing and conservation. And then, of course, I definitely want to thank, any of those communities out there that, whoever they are, that strive to protect wildlife, because it's going to take all of us. And that's it. Anyone have any questions? It's probably really short. It's okay.
Sure. We can have a lot of questions.
Is there a definitive way to, just looking at turtles on the beach, determine which are male and female?
Yes. Well, it depends. If the turtle is large and adult, typically the males have a very long tail and the females don't. If they're younger, they're not at reproductive age, then it's virtually impossible to tell just externally. Like if a turtle is dying and we're performing a necropsy, you can actually see the organs inside. But other than that, it's very difficult to tell just by external features. But if you see a very large turtle with a very large tail, it's probably a male. Yeah.
Your distress number, which I
Uh-huh.
have, is that we able to reach you anytime?
That's a really good question. That particular number, you can call it anytime. If it's during kind of working hours, Monday through Friday, 7 to 4, you'll get, typically you'll get someone like Devon or I on the phone. If it's after hours, then there is another backup pager number that you can call that is on that voicemail. So you can, sometimes people get frustrated with so many numbers, so I just put the one up there but our whole voicemail explains, so if you were to call after 4 o'clock, then you'll get the voicemail, and you'll hear the other number. And then that's actually where Natalie comes in, over here. She actually she's a UH student and helps us out after hours. So typically you call the pager and then she'll call you back and try to give you a hand with whatever you're seeing out there. Yeah. And then for other islands too, typically what we do is we have everyone call us in Oahu, and then depending on where they're seeing animals, we'll give them the number that's going to get them in contact with the person that's closest to them on the neighboring islands.
Any other questions?
I got one.
Yeah.
What defines a stranding?
So
Like, what's the difference between if they're basking and
exactly, and honestly, we do get quite a few calls because basking is a Hawaii behavior. It's in other places, it's very rare. You don't see a turtle on the beach in the daytime unless something's wrong. So, but a lot of times people don't know. So, basically, the way, and you can follow this too, but basically, if it looks like something like the animal's distressed, if you see that it's wrapped in fishing line, or it's very, very emaciated, or it's been there for a very long period of time, maybe 24 hours, if there's so many tumors that it, covering the eyes or the mouth or the face, impeding it in some way, then that could be a stranding. But a lot of what Devon and I do is try to talk to people and figure out, exactly what is going on with that turtle, and it's kind of a fine line between determining if it's just basking and sleeping, because of course it looks lethargic and not moving, and anyone saw any of us while we were sleeping, you probably wouldn't look, you look all relaxed and not moving, right? So people are like, oh, it's not moving, it's not breathing, but they're sleeping, it's okay, so we just try to ask different questions and see. And then also if there's any physical injuries, sometimes, maybe there was a crack in the shell, or maybe there was blood, or maybe there's an obvious injury that would indicate to us. If it's just a turtle that has maybe one tumor in one place, and we get calls because this turtle likes to bask at this one beach all the time, then we'll just kind of say, hey, it's probably just basking. We don't see anything that we really think requires intervention at this time, but we will continue to monitor. So we do have several ongoing cases where we just monitor. Yep, oh, he's up there again, or there she's at that beach again. So we just kind of keep track that way.
I have a question about basking. I don't know if you would be able to answer it, but I read recently that the monk seals are coming on shore and basking, much less frequently because the waters are warmer. Have you noticed any of that same behavior with the turtles? Are they also coming on shore less often because the waters are warming?
That, I don't know. I specifically don't have a good idea.
Okay, I thought it would be out of your realm.
Yeah, well, the other thing too with sea turtles is they can float at the surface and bask
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
true.
So, you know,
That's true.
but, you know, if it's a really cold day, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out, you know, need to get warmed up. But I don't know for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We don't have the monk seals. They have so many people out there always looking, so they have a really good handle on exactly who is where and when with who else, and you know they can kind of link those variables. But we've got so many turtles, and you know we don't have a volunteer group like that. So, do you have any thoughts? Avid fishers, avid turtle lovers, in between, not sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.